Welcome, everyone, to this episode of The Marketplace's Free Market Cash Patient. I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with my special co-host, Dr. Robert Campbell. We're definitely sponsored by, as I said, The Marketplace, which is available at your-mp.com. And tonight we're focusing in on healthcare. And for those of you that didn't really notice, we've got a big problem. And now the name in the middle there goes to a variety of other entities that are interfering. And it's become so complicated, no one can make their way through it. And of course, everything therefore costs a fortune. Information's all over the map. What do I pay attention to? What do I believe? And where are we going to go? It's not looking too healthy. So we've got a way to escape. You're going to want to take a look at it at patientempowerment.mpb.health. You'll see how that makes sense as we get into the conversation this evening. When you're over on the webinar page of the site, you get over to home, hover over webinars. You'll see all the information is in here. Here's our guest for tonight. And most importantly, though, and briefly, when you hover over home, you'll see continuing the conversation. This is where you get a chance to learn more about the various guests and connect with them in a more in-depth way. And I briefly touched over here is where you can see some of the videos from the past. It'll be indicated on here. Now, as I did say, we have a special guest tonight because what we're trying to do is broaden the reach of information and influence as many people as possible. And we're getting many more people to understand the value of becoming a cash patient and how that spills over in every other aspect of healthcare. So tonight, my special guest is Dr. Robert Campbell. He's been involved with presidential activity, helped write some executive orders, legislation, been a leading edge in trying to help get different ways of taking care of healthcare in America. It's very exciting as far as what he's been up to. So I want to welcome him tonight so he can introduce our guest for us.
Well, welcome to Freedom Hub, where we still have free speech, and you will hear the best speech you'll hear anywhere on the internet right here. Charles and Jeff bring together the brightest thinkers, the most articulate speakers, and I'm just pleased to be a small part of it. Tonight, we're going to feature healthcare. Cesar Bautista is with Zion Health. For the last 12 to 18 months, when I'm in certain health circles and people ask me, what do I think is going to be the solution to healthcare? I point out that big box diagram that Jeff put up there that HHS published, which is supposed to be the way that you navigate healthcare. Well, guess what? There's a better way. And Zion Health is in the cash sharing model. And I always say now that cash sharing models are going to be the way that we change healthcare. And I can say 12 months ago, people would ask, well, what is that? I've never heard of that. And lately, guess what? People know what it is. So if you're familiar, this will be a refresher. If it's new, please pay attention. This is the future of healthcare. Cesar, take it away.
Oh, you're muted, though.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robert Campbell. I do appreciate the introduction. Hey, everyone. My name is Cesar Bautista. I'm here with Zion Health. We're going to be talking about what is Zion Health. So one thing to keep in mind as I'm going through what Zion Health is, what we're doing here for the healthcare system in America is we're really a health share reimagined. So we just took the concepts of health share and just simplified it and reimagined how people can view and use healthcare. Wanted to set the stage for everyone, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call are probably really familiar with today's healthcare. And here's some of the things that we think is wrong with the healthcare in today's day and age. So to kind of point out a few factors here on the call is first and foremost, I'm sure everyone is already familiar, but the rising cost of healthcare, which is absolutely insane. One thing I wanted to point out on the rising cost is healthcare is the same it was 20, 15 years ago. The costs haven't varied by much. I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call who are familiar with Oklahoma Surgery Center or Surgical Center. And it's pretty amazing. We actually had a conversation with a couple of the founders over there at Oklahoma Surgery Center. And what they told us was they've actually only increased 2 of their surgeries that they offer through the surgery center. In 15 years of being in business, they've only had to increase 2 surgeries. That to me is absolutely insane. And it's just showing what's wrong with today's healthcare and the rising costs and the fact that providers are basically having a monopoly in certain areas. There's these hospital systems that require you to go under their umbrella of healthcare providers. And this is what we call the networks, right? It's really restrictive. It doesn't let you, it doesn't give you freedom of choice to be able to pick and choose where you exactly want to go. And to top that off is you have your local mom and pop doctors not being reimbursed fairly. They're almost getting pushed out of that market because they can't compete with those large healthcare systems. And that's really what's wrong with today's healthcare. Healthcare, just like with any other type of commerce, whether that's retail or whatever that case is, it needs some sort of competition at that point to be able to help with those, help lowering the costs there. Because like I said, if you have those healthcare systems like we do here in Utah, then it can really increase the cost quite a bit there for that area. Another thing in today's healthcare that we've noticed is, and I know there's a couple of doctors on this call, so they could probably relate to this, but more healthcare equals more treatment, equals more medication, and that equals more money, equaling more sickness. How many doctors or providers do you know that are just prescribing medication, not necessarily to help cure that condition, but to really try to mask that? Forgot to screen share 1 second. There we go. So to really help mask that. So we're right here on the 4th point. They're not necessarily prescribing medication to help with, whatever they're experiencing. They're just trying to mask that at that point. And this is pretty obvious when it comes to someone actually trying to get service or the healthcare they need. One thing that I've noticed working with Zion Health is that a lot of people don't even know how much a simple office visit costs. They don't even know how much they would have to pay if they get sick, right? A lot of people that I know don't even want to go into the doctor because they don't want to open their doctor's bill at that point. So this is one of the things that we try to step in here at Zion Health, and we're really trying to change that narrative. And to round it all off, everything and any type of healthcare is just over-regulated. That comes from the DPC side of things, the direct primary care. The providers are over-regulated. Health shares are being over-regulated, and Obamacare is over-regulated. And just overall, the government just has their hands too much in the pot at this point, where they're just trying to regulate everything when it comes to healthcare. Now, I'm sure you're wondering by now, but who is Zion Health? What are we doing here? Well, just like they mentioned, Zion Health is a health sharing community. So it's a like-minded individuals sharing in one another's medical expenses. And we're really a health share reimagined. We are changing the way people are viewing healthcare and simplifying that for everyone. That comes from our providers working with Zion Health, to our members getting the service that they need done, to working with our partners such as our DPC affiliates and our insurance brokers, to our employers. I'm a big guy on employers, and that's specifically what I do here is I work with our employers, and I'm a huge advocate for helping out those business owners, helping them find other alternatives that would be available to them. And to put it in layman's terms, we're really just people taking care of people. We want to help everyone, and we always go out of our way to make sure everyone is taken care of. And that really goes to show, if you call in to Zion Health, you're not going to wait 10 minutes on the phone. You'll barely maybe wait 30 seconds. We answer the phone quickly, and in my opinion, we have the best customer service out of any health share, any health insurance model. Definitely more than health insurance, that's for sure. We promote healthy living and personal responsibility, showing people how to be savvy healthcare consumers and being responsible for their healthcare, looking at the other options that are available to them. It's pretty funny in the United States that we're such great retail consumers, and I can relate to this, but who on this call can relate to this? You're wanting to buy a new TV, you're shopping at 3 or 4 different stores, you're looking at 3 or 4 different models, you're trying to get the best price with all of the best features. Everyone does that. I know I do that, but when it comes to healthcare, we seem to lose that savviness when it comes to being a healthcare consumer. A lot of the times people are just going to the first person they're seeing. They're not talking about pricing. They're just going in, they're being told what to do, what to pay, who to see. And that's really not what we're about. We're about taking that personal responsibility and, being responsible for our own health. Zion Health, we're also huge advocates for alternative type of medicine. That's like your naturopathic, holistic type of doctors. We know very well that a lot of the times alternative medicine or alternative treatment is not only more effective, but also more cost affordable than your traditional Western medicine. So we're huge advocates on that. We're always constantly sharing in, your chiropractic visit, massages, acupuncture, stem cell therapy, a wide range of alternative medicine that we would actually share into. On top of that, and these two kind of go hand in hand here, but we accept everyone here at Zion Health. We don't have any religious affiliation. We accept all faiths and backgrounds. As long as you have an address here in the United States and you're under the age of 65, you can be a Zion Health member, and there would be nothing we would say otherwise. And you'll hear me say this probably 2 or 3 or 4 times, but we're just simple to work with. We're simplistic in a complicated healthcare system. And anyone that has worked in healthcare, or whether that's as a broker, as a DPC provider, as a traditional doctor, whatever the case is, that the healthcare system is just broken. It just does not work the way it's currently set up. About Zion Health, to kind of give everyone a little background on where we started and everything like that. Like I said earlier, we're a health share reimagined. So we essentially just took what health shares have done since the mid 70s, early 80s. We took everything, all the good things, and we really just simplified that process. We didn't try to shy away from what has worked in the past. And what we did is we simplified the process and we made it easy for people to access the healthcare that they need when they need it. That being said, just like with a lot of health shares, we're a nonprofit benevolence organization. So everything we do is on a voluntary basis. So our members voluntarily share into a pool of money. And when a member has a large medical expense, then we'll share in through the community through that pool of money. We were established back in 2019, so we've been a health share for a little over 2 years now. But that being said, is not only are we the top rated health share in the United States right now, and that's not just me saying that. You guys can check Google, check Facebook, go on any review website. We're the top rated health share on any website. But on top of that, we're also available in all 50 states, which is pretty amazing, because I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate to this, but there's certain health shares that are actually excluded from certain states from being able to do business in that state. Unlike with Zion Health, we're available in all 50 states. So no matter where you're at in the country, whether you're in New York, you're in California, you're in Pennsylvania, wherever you're at, not only are the guidelines going to be the same, but also our rates are going to be the same. It's the same across the board in all 50 states. On top of that, Zion Health, we're a worldwide organization. So if you have a member that's traveling in, let's say, Mexico, and they get injured, then we would also share in those international bills as well. And we're about 25,000 members strong right now. Now, I'm sure you're wondering now, who does Zion Health work with, Cesar? Who can enroll with Zion Health? Well, it's pretty straightforward, and I mentioned this already, but we really accept everyone here. We work with direct primary care providers. We're huge advocates of DPC providers, because the way we look at them is we really look at them as disruptors in the healthcare space today. They're really coming in and disrupting the way healthcare is looked at currently and really creating a model for their patients that's more personalized and just a better overall service that they're providing. So we're huge advocates for DPCs. A lot of what they believe in is also exactly what we believe in. And so that partnership with all of our DPCs is very helpful, and it really helps them grow their business as well. We also work with employers. Like I said, I'm the employer guy here at Zion Health. So I primarily work with a lot of our business owners. So employers love working with Zion Health because we're all inclusive, right? So we accept everyone here. I'm sure you know with employers, but a lot of the times, not every employee is going to be the same. Not every employee is going to have the same background. So being able to have an alternative option to health insurance that can be a good fit for a lot of their employees really goes a long ways. And I can't tell you how many times I have this conversation with employers where they're just thanking me because of what the amount of money we're saving and what we're providing for their employees. We also work with trust and associations as well. There's a lot of huge associations in the United States that work with Zion Health and offer this to their members as part of those associations. The next one here is Pre-Medicare Retirees. Now, you're probably wondering by now, but why did you put this in the slide, Cesar? Why is this right there? Well, let me tell you this with Medicare retirees is a lot of the times, the reason why someone isn't retiring early before the age of 65 is because they can't afford their health care. They need their employer to be able to help them with those costs. So we're helping people be able to retire early, which is absolutely amazing. You know, that age bracket, you know, the older age group, everyone knows what their monthly premiums are going to be. They're going to be at least 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, just depending on what they actually have set up and who's enrolled. So to be able to help those people save about 50 to 60%, we're talking about anywhere from $500 to $1,000 in savings. That's a lot of the times just enough to help someone be able to retire at that point and really do the things that they want to do without being restricted because of their health care. So we're helping people retire early because they can afford their health care at this point. And we're also here for individuals and families, those people who don't have any type of healthcare or those who now are going to be self-employed. And as you know, as a single person self-employed, it's really hard to find affordable healthcare. So we're here for those individuals, for those families looking for something affordable and that's going to make sense for them. And this is my favorite point, is we're here for growing families. We're huge advocates here for young families, helping those families start having kids. You know, maternity right now is probably one of our best programs out of any health insurance, any health share. And I wish we had time. I can go into more detail, but essentially our members pay one time, one IUA or their initial unshareable amount, and then we would share in or pay for their prenatal, delivery, and postnatal. Most of our members are enrolled in the 1,000 IUA. So that means that member is only paying $1,000 to have a baby. That to me is absolutely insane, considering that right now, the average person with health insurance is paying about $6,000 out of pocket to have a baby. $6,000 or $1,000 to start a family. I don't know. So we're huge on our growing families, our young families. We want to be able to help them out whenever we can. Now, why Zion Health? Why does Zion Health make more sense than traditional insurance, than any health share out there that you may be working with? Well, to top it off, we're just affordable on all assets or all phases of healthcare. We're affordable not only on your monthly contribution. On average, we save our members about 50 to 60% compared to their traditional insurance. So not only are we affordable on a monthly basis, but we're also more affordable when the member actually goes to use the service. Their out-of-pocket expenses are also going to be about 50 to 60% less than traditional insurance. So just overall, we're just more affordable option than what you have available to you now. I mentioned this earlier, but freedom of choice. We don't restrict our members where they need to go get service done, what network they have to go into, what provider they have to see, or even the type of treatment they want to get done. If someone wants to see a naturopathic holistic doctor, we're going to be able to be there and support that for our members. So really just giving someone that freedom of choice to get the healthcare they want when they want it. And as I mentioned, alternative medicine, we're huge advocates on alternative type of medicine, just because a lot of the times that treatment is going to be more affordable and more effective than what traditional treatment would be. And just the practicality of Zion Health. I can't tell you how many times people call in to Zion Health and they're like, it's this easy to get my bills paid. We pay providers quickly. One thing we do really well is being able to pay at the time of service. I can't even begin to explain how many surgeries we're prepaying for our members on a daily basis, where the member just has to show up for their surgery. It's already prepaid and everything else is taken care of from there with the Zion Health community. So just the practicality. There's not, these huge loops you need to jump through to get answers here at Zion Health or to get something shareable. It's all straightforward and it's really easy for everyone to be involved. And like I said, it's just simple. It just makes sense for people. It just is easy to understand and easy to follow. And I know a lot of people, when it comes to health shares, they tend to be a little hesitant at first. They're unfamiliar with the concept. They're not sure if it's going to work for them. But once you kind of get your wheels going, you get your feet wet, then it's like, wow, why haven't I heard about this sooner? Or why haven't I enrolled sooner? It just makes more sense than what I've been doing. So that's a pretty good overview of what Zion Health is, what we offer, kind of what we're trying to do here in the health share space. But what I really wanted to do is give you guys a more detailed picture of how that actually makes sense.
We hope you're enjoying today's exciting guest, but for the moment, I have a quick message for you here from the marketplace. You can find us at your-mp.com. When you land over there, you'll hover over the Home tab and you'll see a drop down that says Webinars. Once you arrive over there, you'll scroll down towards the bottom and you'll find all the links to catch today's and all the past shows. Here's an example of what they look like appearing on Brighteon. Now you'll remember this site is called your Health, Wealth, and Freedom site. And so let's talk about your health for a minute. If you're looking to escape from the idea of insurance and the stranglehold that represents and would like to ideally do more of what you prefer, then you need to take a look at patientempowerment.mpb.health and set your health free. Also, let's discuss your wealth for a minute. If your money could actually talk to you, would you listen to it? Well, here's what it's trying to tell you. And this is an example of somebody that did listen. They had over 24 deaths, mortgages, car loans, unbelievable, right? But instead of taking 20 years to pay it off like they were on track to do, they were able to do it in 8.5 years. And they did it all without any refinancing, consolidating, didn't have to change their lifestyle, didn't have to make any more money, nothing. So you too can get this free analysis. It's completely confidential. There's no background check, no credit check, no pulling your credit, no social security numbers, no account numbers, nothing. But the outcomes and the information it reveals is guaranteed to be accurate. So you just head on over to bit.ly/debt to wealth. You'll pull down this form. You'll fill it in like lender name as an example, could be lender number 1. It's that anonymous. And you're going to see if you too can get out of debt like this guy did here in like only 6.3 years. So find out what's going to happen for you. But in the meantime, let's get back to the show.
So I have this cost comparison guide I'm going to go through real quick. And what this does and what this looks at is this is going to look at the worst case scenario for a Zion Health member. So what we're doing is we're really taking 3 types of people in healthcare. We're taking your uninsured self-pay, we're taking your Zion Health member or a health share member, and then we're looking at your traditional insurance patient. This is someone on Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana, Select Health, those types of insurance plan. So what we did is we took a family of 4. You have your 2 adults and then 2 dependents. Both adults are aged 45. So pretty average here, I'd say, as far as age with Zion Health. And we just took the worst case scenario. These are actual numbers. This insurance number are actual numbers we pulled off of healthcare.gov. And this is an actual Zion Health membership. So what we did is we took a year's worth of medical expenses and we broke it down line by line on exactly how that would work. So I'm just going to go through this real quick. To start off here, it's pretty obvious the differences in cost between the uninsured self-pay, your Zion Health member, and your traditional insurance. Like I mentioned, on average, our members save about 50 to 60% compared to traditional insurance. So right off the bat, your Zion Health member is already saving money without even having to use the service. Because I'm sure you all know, but no matter what you do, no matter what healthcare you get throughout the year, your monthly premium, your monthly contribution is something you pay no matter what. You don't get this money back. You don't see this at the end of the year as a refund. You're paying this no matter what you do for the healthcare through the year. From there, this family goes in for 4 preventive visits. This is going to be like a physical that each person is going in for, which is pretty average for families. Everyone's usually going in for at least one physical throughout the year. So at $125 per visit for 4 preventive visits, your uninsured self-pay, pretty obvious. They're going to just pay this directly out of pocket, which paying $500 for 4 visits for the year is really not bad. It's a decent price for that annual provider visit or for that physical. Your Zion Health member, though, we do share in 1 provider visit, which typically people use for their physical. So this would be shareable with the community. So this member actually paid $0 for their preventive services. On the flip side, traditional insurance, this is where it makes a lot of sense, and where they work really well is for those smaller preventive sick type of visits. So of course, with your traditional insurance, those preventive services were covered at 100%. From there, the family goes in for 8 sick visits. And I get this question almost every phone call, but someone always goes, Cesar, what if I get sick 5 times, 8 times, 10 times throughout the year? What happens then? Well, let me show you here. Your uninsured self-pay, they're going to be paying $200 for that per visit. At 8 sick visits, they're going to be paying about $1,600 out of pocket. So right now, this family is a little over $2,000. Still not a bad price to pay for a family of 4 for the healthcare for the year as an uninsured self-pay. Your Zion Health member, they can either pay for that visit out of pocket, go into the provider, or we also offer a telemedicine service where they can get a consultation with the doctor for a $0 consultation fee. So that would be paid for through Teladoc, and that service they would not even have to pay for. And a lot of the times, those smaller sick visits can be handled through a virtual meeting like that with a doctor. Your traditional insurance patient, of course, they're going to have their copay of $50 per visit. So $50 at 8 sick visits, that comes out to $400 for the year. So they're paying $400 on top of what they're already paying for their monthly premiums. Now, this is where things start to get really interesting for the family, because now the wife has a $13,000 hospitalization. And it's pretty obvious the uninsured self-pay, it just doesn't make sense at this point to be uninsured or a self-pay patient, because if you are stuck with those large medical expenses, you're now liable to pay for those expenses. And before we started the webinar, I was actually talking to Jeff about this, but he brought up a really good point. He mentioned that one of the biggest reasons why people go into bankruptcy is for medical debt. And that's completely true. And it's pretty shocking how many people can't even afford a $1,000 medical bill. So to pay $13,000 out of pocket, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely would not be able to pay that if something were to happen. On the flip side here, your Zion Health member, we don't use a deductible. Yes, that's right. There's no deductible with Zion Health. What we use is what we call the initial unshareable amount, or the IUA. And this works different because it doesn't accumulate annually. The IUA works on a per incident, per person basis. So for example, this $13,000 hospitalization, the member here, they paid their first $1,000 for this $13,000 hospitalization. And then the remaining $12,000 for that hospitalization is shareable or paid through the community at that point. Again, the member just met their one IUA, and the remaining cost for that hospitalization is shareable at 100% with the community. Now, your traditional insurance patient, this is where traditional insurance just doesn't make sense, is when you have those large unexpected medical expenses. And this is where it really just starts to lose out on a lot of people. This is where people just start to get into debt. They start having to pay their high deductible, their co-insurance on top of that. So for this $13,000 hospitalization, the wife now has to meet their deductible of $6,700. So they're paying that just for this one hospitalization. Now, as part of that hospitalization, this $13,000 hospitalization, the wife also now needs to go in for 15 chiropractic visits. So at $75 per visit for 15 visits, that comes out to $1,000, 125, which is honestly not a bad price to go in to see a chiropractic for $75. I mean, I've seen chiropractors charge anywhere from $200. Your Zion Health member, though, on the flip side, they actually don't have to pay anything for those chiropractic visits, because these chiropractic visits are a part of this incident. So if it's all related to the same injury, to the same incident, then it all falls under this one IUA. So those 15 visits were shareable at 100% with the community. On the flip side, though, on top of what they already paid for your deductible here on the traditional insurance side, now this patient also has to meet a $50 copay. So for 15 chiropractic visits at $50 a copay, they're going to be paying $750 out of pocket. That's pretty insane to me, considering that this uninsured self-pay is only paying $25 more for their chiropractic visits, but they're saving quite a bit of money on their annual premium or contribution because they don't pay anything. And this is pretty obvious here now in the prescriptions. So this family also takes 2 prescriptions, pretty generic prescriptions that you see listed here, but they take 2 prescriptions for 12 months. They take a 30-day supply every month. Your uninsured self-pay, they're pretty savvy at this point now. They're using discount websites. They're using GoodRx, Blink Health. They're getting discounts on those generic prescriptions. So they're paying $156 for the year for 2 prescriptions. Your Zion Health member, we offer something similar to GoodRx. It's what we call our RX Share program. And the member is only paying around $5 for this prescription. For 2 prescriptions, comes out to about $108 for that prescription. Now, the traditional insurance, $480 for the exact same prescriptions. And what are they paying? They're paying a $20 copay for 2 prescriptions for 12 months. That's how we get the $480. That to me is absolutely insane. To pay $480 for the exact same prescriptions, knowing that you can go to GoodRx, Blink Health, and pay $156. That's crazy to me. That's insane. And people feel really good about that. They feel really good about walking into their pharmacy, paying their $20 copay because it's covered under their insurance plan, when in reality, they could be getting the exact same prescription, the exact same medication for nearly 3 times less the cost of what they're paying with their traditional insurance. And that kind of sums up what's wrong with today's healthcare, is people are just not aware of what the cost would be if they don't go through their insurance. A lot of people think that they need to have an insurance company in order to negotiate bills for them or get them the best price or find them the best service. But how many people on this call can agree that health insurance companies are really not in their members' best interest? That's just a matter of the fact, and that's just the fact of it. Moving on here to the next line, here's where things start to get more interesting for this family now, because now the wife has another $5,000 outpatient procedure. This is completely unrelated from their first $13,000 hospitalization. So again, the uninsured self-pay, I probably sound like a broken record, but again, it just shows why it just doesn't make sense to be uninsured or self-pay, because now you're liable for another $5,000 out of pocket. Your Zion Health member on the flip side, same process. They would meet their one-time one IUA of $1,000, and then the remaining $4,000 would be considered shareable at 100% with the community. And at that point, that $5,000 hospitalization would be shareable once they've met their IUA. Now, the traditional insurance, the wife now reaches their max out of pocket. So round of applause for this family. They finally made it. The wife reached their max out of pocket. But hold on now. Keep in mind that the husband will also still have a deductible they would have to meet as long with the kids as well. So if the husband or the kids have an incident or an injury or an illness, then at that point, they would also be subject to reaching their deductible for that injury or for that family member. And poor wife here, but like I said, we're looking at the worst case scenario and we just had to pick on the wife. But again, this wife has another $8,000 hospitalization. Man, this wife had a really bad year this year. And the uninsured self-pay, I'm not even going to mention it to you guys. You guys are already on top of it, but the uninsured self-pay, they're paying this completely out of pocket at $8,000, which is absolutely insane to be able to pay for a lot of people in today's day and age. Your Zion Health member, though, again, they meet their one-time IUA for that $8,000 hospitalization, and then the remaining cost for that injury or that illness or that hospitalization is shareable at 100%. Now, at this point, though, with Zion Health, this Zion Health member, they've now reached their 3-cap maximum of how many times they would pay their IUA. So we have safeguards in place for our members where if they have a bad year like this, we actually will cap the IUA at 3 IUAs in a 12-month rolling period. So for example, for this family of 4, if everyone had an accident, all 4 members got in an accident, they got injured, and each bill was over $10,000, then at that point, the family is only responsible to meet their IUA 3 times. And then that 4th accident is shareable at 100% with the community. The IUA also would not reset annually like a deductible would. So if this last accident here happened, let's say in December, then it's still that 1,001 IUA no matter where they're at in their bills or paying towards that. And your traditional insurance patient at this point, they've reached their max out of pocket. But keep in mind, if let's say this accident happened in December, you all know what happens once that hits January. At that point, now they're going to have to pay their deductible all over again for that same exact hospitalization. So at that point, it doesn't really make sense because now that you've reached your deductible, now it's just going to reset all over again, and you're going to have to pay that completely out of pocket at that point again. So again, the deductible just doesn't make sense, and it's really not there to help people with their medical expenses. And for those of you who haven't already looked ahead, but just look at the cost differences here between your traditional, your Zion Health member, and your uninsured self-pay. What's more shocking to me is not the differences between Zion Health and your traditional patient, but really the differences between your traditional and your uninsured self-pay. Those 2 cost differences is really not huge. And this person is supposed to be quote unquote covered under their insurance policy. So a couple of contributing factors that I wanted to just go over in this scenario is, like I said, if someone else in the family has a large medical expense, then they're also going to be responsible to meet their max out of pocket at that point for that unexpected injury or illness. We also assume that all of these events took place in a 12-month or a single calendar year, but keep in mind the insurance does reset, that deductible does reset in January every year. Unlike the deductible, the IUA would not reset arbitrarily. So that would just be the one-time one IUA, no matter what injury or illness it is. And for long-term medical events, like if you get a really bad cancer diagnosis, or maybe you have, an injury that is going to need some extensive physical therapy or something like that. Again, Zion Health was going to be there once you've met your IUA. There's no annual or lifetime maximum. So you can have $1 million bill and we'll still be there every step of the way. And that IUA would not reset for that injury or that illness. And the last point I really wanted to make on this presentation is really we're going to be a good fit for about 80% of the population in the United States. You may have someone who has a serious or pre-existing condition that is not going to be shareable with Zion Health. And at that point, traditional insurance is probably going to be the best option for them. But even some people with pre-existing conditions or some sort of treatment they might need done, a lot of the times what they're saving compared to traditional insurance is going to be more than enough to be able to pay for that treatment for that pre-existing condition. But that really gives you a really good overall cost comparison of the worst case scenario with a Zion Health member, what someone can truly expect when they are a Zion Health member. And hopefully that helped you kind of paint that picture on Zion Health. But that's really all I had for everyone on this call today. We'll open it up to questions and answer now. If anyone is interested, you're welcome to check out our website, www.zionhealth.org. We try to be very transparent and everything can be found on our website. So we'll go ahead and open it to questions now. Thank you again, and go ahead and take it over, Jeff.
All right. Thanks, Cesar. That was very, very good. A couple of things just to amplify what you said, because you covered a ton of material, but there were a couple of things that sort of maybe went right in one ear and out the other. On the telemedicine part of it, when you were talking about the idea of that being a lower cost because I can just call somebody, that person is able to phone in a prescription. Because a lot of people think I got to go to the doctor because my ear hurts and, I'm going to need to get some medication. So that's why I got to physically go. But that telemedicine doctor can figure that problem out and phone in that script for you, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. With the telemedicine we offer, you actually speak to a licensed provider in your state so they can prescribe medication to your local pharmacy.
The other thing what you mentioned was about pregnancy. One thing you didn't mention is the fact that you can use alternatives, because typical insurance, you're forced to go to the doctor where they may want to, to the hospital where you're going to be obligated potentially to take all sorts of regular medical procedures that you might really not have to get so far down those weeds if you did something like maybe a home birth or a birthing center. You allow people to do alternatives to the traditional way, correct?
Yeah, exactly. We're huge on home births. A lot of the times home births are about half the cost of a hospital birth. So in those instances, we actually waive a partial of that member's IUA. So we can waive up to 50%. And a lot of people are enrolled in the 1,000 IUA. So if you have a home birth, you're only paying $500 for that home birth.
That's actually, I'm glad you chuckled, because I was going to laugh. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
You think exactly. Of what you hear people say what pregnancies cost, and you're thinking $500. What did I go to the 7-Eleven? So that's great. So exactly. Here's the other thing too that's really big too. Not everybody realizes, but the fact that you have the same rates nationally, having been involved with health insurance for umpteen years. It differs, like with say Blue Cross, from county to county in the same state. So they have the same price everywhere uniformly is so fantastic, because now it's easy to tell somebody what it's going to cost them. And it's very easy for someone to perceive as a consumer, what's this going to cost me when I multiply that times 12? It just makes the whole process so fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. That's like I said, we're simple, we're easy to work with. And I think it starts with just being the same in all across all 50 states. That also goes for our partners as well. We don't switch it up for any of our partners, our affiliates, our DPCs. If you partner with Zion Health, it's going to be the same concept, the same commission, no matter where you're at in the country.
One other thing before we open it up the rest of the way, you made a comment about how this is great for employers. But, if I'm the employer, I'm looking to look to you because, I want to save money. What's the reality of what ends up happening? What becomes that employee's experience when they suddenly feel something different than all these switched up health insurance plans they had year after year after year?
That's a great question. What we notice when it comes to employers is there tends to be kind of like a culture shock amongst the employees, because they're just not familiar with how Zion Health works, what a health insurer is. People are so indoctrined in the traditional way of insurance that this comes as a culture shock to them. So what we do really well here at Zion Health is we do a lot of the education piece internally for that employer. So we actually walk almost every one of their employees through how that would work specifically for their family. And we make sure that they're being taken care of that way. And a lot of the times, once we're able to provide that for that employer, then that really solves a lot of those, concerns from the beginning. Another thing a lot of our employers are doing is they're having what we call a Zion Health advocate in their business. So this is like a key employee, the HR guy, the business owner, but just someone who's more or less an advocate of Zion Health and can help answer some of those simple questions that, can easily be answered internally.
Fantastic. Well, let's hear from our co-host, Dr. Campbell.
Cesar, that was a wonderful presentation. Been in business since 2019. I'm going to predict that 2022 is going to be the year of health cost sharing. I think that the time is right. One of the things that we've noticed is bankruptcies, personal bankruptcies. Now, the number one cause for personal bankruptcies is medical expenses. That's never been the case before. Number two, the healthcare medical industrial complex has made healthcare so expensive through traditional insurance that you guys have a wonderful opportunity to come in and provide a lower cost product with higher quality outcomes. And I really think 2022 is going to be the year. I've been working with a lot of leaders in the government and outside the government to try to create an environment where these health cost sharing products can thrive. And I'll tell you something that to me says that things have changed. I was speaking to the Secretary of Labor, the prior Secretary of Labor and the current Secretary of Labor, who are both involved with, if you will, employer-based health plans. They are both very familiar with cost-sharing plans. And in their words, a cost-sharing plan can come into an employer for less than half the cost, provide a better product than Blue Cross. So you guys are going to be the solution. I hope you're ready when game time comes and everyone wants your product. You guys are going to have to really step it up. And I do have great hopes for what you're doing, and keep up the good work.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Campbell. I do appreciate that, and yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction. Just like you said, 2022 is looking very bright at this present moment, and I think we're setting up the right things here at Zion Health internally to be able to, help everyone that wants to be involved with Zion Health. We don't want to restrict anyone from joining. We don't want to be able to hold people back because of us. We want anyone to join when they want to join at any given time.
Fantastic. You're so fortuitous to join such a great company, Cesar. Soon you'll be requesting a window office on the corner there. That's great. Charles, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, and I'll be quick as I know time is running out. We have other people with good questions. Cesar, when people call in, they usually call in not so much directly, but indirectly as part of a different package that includes you for the expensive stuff, where they would have other tools for the low-level first dollar out of pocket. The big three that come to mind are, DPC. They have your direct primary care monthly fee, doctor taking care of a lot of the nickel and dime stuff, maybe some low-cost labs and whatnot, or the health savings account combined with the appropriately structured MEC, minimal essential coverage piece. What can you comment how sharing complements nicely these other tools for the area that you don't cover so much, or share in so much, the first dollar area, HSAs, DPC? You're muted, Cesar. Yeah.
That's a great question. And to really answer that, and I think I kind of touched on this earlier, but we don't expect to be the one option solve all the problems, right? We really want to be just a piece of the puzzle for that person's healthcare. So working with a DPC is really a great way, and that's a great model to really round out someone's healthcare, or pairing it with a MEC plan. I'm sure you know just as well as I do, but pairing with a MEC plan and a Zion Health Share, a lot of people are like, how do you even do that? How does that make sense? But it's one of those things that, and it's just a part of the puzzle, right? It's really there just to round out your healthcare expenses and to really compete with what traditional insurance is offering at a more affordable rate.
It's perfect because if anyway, sometimes I analogize it for consumers. When you buy that really great car, did you notice that they have special tires made by Goodyear and this special Bose radio? So it's not like I'm just trying to get Zion. You're only part of that whole puzzle. And if anything, you're really more the part that comes out if something bad happens. I tell you, like you said at the beginning, what if you're spending $1,000 a month for this so-called insurance, but no one gets sick? You're too busy to go to the doctor. You forgot to get a physical this year. What'd you get for $1,000 a month? Nothing.
Yeah,
Zip.
exactly.
A big bill that just drained a boatload of cash. So, but guess what? I needed to get my teeth cleaned. I needed this. There were a lot of stuff I had to do anyway. It had nothing to do with calling you up. And so that's why you're a part of a big mosaic that everybody needs to understand. Colleen, I see you've got your hand up.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Great comments tonight. I just wanted to, add my perspective, wearing a variety of the hats. One, as an employer who's offered this to her employees, and everyone loves it. And now that we've had it for a while, we've had people who've had procedures. And to your point, Jeff, we had one individual who was able to have an alternative procedure that would have never been allowed by traditional insurance. And it was supported by, they had the freedom to talk to a doctor of their choice, and very, very excited about that, and to do it with such little cost. But to Dr. Campbell's point also, I think this is a real opportunity for us to exercise our freedom and to share this information with physicians, because it's reclaiming a relationship between patients and physicians. And more doctors need to understand the power of the cash pay patient, and how we now have the choice to go to any physician that we want. And the more that gets out in the marketplace, the healthier that ecosystem is going to be, and more physicians are going to be able to remain independent and ward off the need to sell to the larger systems that are currently dominating this financial matrix that we're all trying to navigate. So it's really a freeing choice, and we as medical cost sharing participants need to make sure we share all the aspects of how great this is and why with our physician community too.
One thing real quick, Colleen, that you just mentioned is the idea that person was able to do that alternative. Think of it this way. I'm so stressed going through whatever it is I'm going through. The fact that I can go where I want to go psychologically, what kind of a difference did that make for the consumer and patient?
It's enormous. And physicians really like that too, because they want the patient engaged in their care. Whatever it is they choose, if they're engaged in it, likely outcomes can be better. And rather than them feeling like they wish they could have gone somewhere else, but they can't because their insurance disallows it, makes them feel like they are powerless. And I think that does have a big impact on the outcome. So I agree entirely on that. It's a big deal. Fantastic. And medical cost sharing has opened that up for us.
Wow. Look at that, Cesar. Pat yourself on the back on camera for all of us. All right. Jenny, I see your hand is up.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Everyone. Thank you for the presentation, Cesar. This is really interesting. I can't wait to share it with my husband. But I just wanted to ask, especially now that privacy is becoming more and more of an issue, how is the patient privacy handled when it comes to Zion Health, or just being involved in something like this? Is it the same way? Do claims get submitted to you all, or how does that work?
Yeah, we follow the same HIPAA regulations as insurance companies do. So we are HIPAA compliant here at Zion Health. And really, to submit a bill, so let's just go back to those hospitalizations in that cost comparison that I was talking about. So that first one, that $13,000 hospitalization, at this point, the member just pays that IUA. They pay that directly to the provider, and every member is going to get a Zion Health ID card that'll have information for your provider to actually just bill us directly. So once you've paid your IUA, we're actually willing to work directly with your provider to negotiate and pay the remaining costs after that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Jeff, do
Very
you want
nice
to
and
invite
clean.
Dr. Wallen
I was
to
just going to
comment?
say yes. I was going to say I was going to tap Dr. Weil and see if you had to put your 2 cents into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think that thanks so much, Cesar, for the presentation. Zion's awesome. It's great that, I mean, I think even, some of the other sharing communities don't necessarily support maternity all that well. So I think that's a huge added benefit. But I think that, again, I think the other participant, I forget her name, sorry, kind of alluded to it. If you really look at things and you really want to get back to pre-1980s where it was physicians and patients, or healers and patients, however you want to term it, the easiest way to do that is to get free of the silliness of the traditional system. And I think cost sharing offers that catastrophic policy or major medical policy to allow that. Obviously there's a slew of other kind of out-of-pocket accelerators or savings avenues to help with that side of things. But I think sharing, especially for either small employers or families or what have you, or self-employed folks, I think it's fantastic. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you, Jared, for those kind words. Yeah, I mean, we're really revolutionizing healthcare right now, and it takes everyone, right? Everyone on this call, all of our partners we work with, it takes everyone to really pull the rope. And we always say we're all on the same end of the rope, right? We're all pulling the same way. We all want to see the same change. So why not work together and do that together, right?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I know you, like everybody else in the business, has a crystal ball. So with that thought in mind, when do you predict this is going to start to infiltrate into the large employer world? Because right now you're kind of occupying the 49 employees and below space down to the single person.
Mhm.
When is this going to become so compelling that it's forced to break into the bigger market space?
Hey, that's an awesome question. And we are actually just having a conversation about this the other day. And we feel like we're already starting to kind of dip our toes in that a little bit, with just like what you guys were saying, with being able to offer a MEC plan, a compliant ACA plan with Zion Health, pairing that with an HSA. And that's really how we believe that we can get into some of those larger groups. And there are a couple large groups we work with where they're partnering with our TPA that we work with our third party administrator. So we're kind of already starting to head down that route. But it's going to take some time. I don't know if in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, but eventually I feel like that's going to be a big space for health shares to be a part of, not just Zion Health, but every health share out there.
Fantastic. Dr. Cam, I was going to see, did you have a last comment we get to put in here at the tail end?
Well,
Jeff, could I say one thing?
Cesar,
But yeah, let me come to
I'd-
you right after, real quick. Go ahead.
I'd like Cesar to maybe, when I look at cost sharing, as I learned about this, I see 3 areas where people, I guess, barriers. I'd like you to maybe share with your expertise what you think about this. What's the hardest thing to do? To get an employer to just take the dive and say, yeah, I'm going to get this for my employees? Or is it harder to get patients to become actual consumers of healthcare and make decisions? Or lastly, is it harder to get the healthcare system to provide the care for cash? Which one of those is the hardest bug?
I would say definitely the last point for sure. And it just goes back to the point I made about it just being all over regulated right now, right? That comes from the DPC standpoint to the health share to even Obamacare. And I would say that's probably the biggest hard point right now, is just the government trying to, stop the movement of what we're trying to do for the United States here in the healthcare system. But a lot of the times working with patients, working with employers, the biggest hurdle with those is just education. If you can provide an effective communication, making sure that they understand how it works, then a lot of the times there's no hurdles with working with those types of people.
Very good. Okay, Charles, let you slip in the last comment here before we.
Yeah. Another hurdle for folks is, will sharing be there for when things get expensive with the cancers, heart attacks, COVID, bad accidents, et cetera? And what I tell them is, well, my cousin, who's my age, died last year during COVID from something else. and cancer. And the sharing held his hand, helped to negotiate the cost, the choices with the different doctors, et cetera. They paid for everything and they held their hand. And his brother, a lawyer who sues healthcare companies, told me, he's got my same name, Charlie Froman. I can't believe this. There's no adversarial dynamic here. So that is the biggest selling point I tell folks. There's no adversarial dynamic between you and the payer. The health sharing community is a community. It's like old time mutual aid from a century ago. So my last 2 cents.
What a great attribute to the program. You're putting attorneys out of business. That's fantastic, Cesar. And then the other big takeaway is I got to get a new wife because she is costing me a fortune. But I want to tell you, that really was fantastic tonight. So thank you so much for today.
Yeah, you guys are definitely welcome. Thank you for having me on. I know we got a few others scheduled with more people here at Zion Health. So this is just, the the tip of the iceberg, essentially. But it was really fun being on the call. So thank you again for having me.